Okay, it looks like we are live now, and I am very happy to be joined by 5 of my friends. And for this second producer Patreon hangout, which will go live for everybody else once we're done talking. And I do see some of you in chat. So welcome, and thank you again for backing on Patreon, and thank you again for taking the time out to join us as we talk through our top games or top anticipated games for 2017. We're going to do a top 3 list. Each of us will do 3 games. And looking at the list, there's a little bit of crossover, but not a whole ton. But first, I'm just going to go down the order of folks that are on my screen. And we'll start with Jamie from Secret Cabal. Hello.
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Thanks, Joel, for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure to have you on. I think this is the first time you've joined this channel on a Hangout, so it's good to have you.
I think it is, yes. Well, thank you.
Yeah. And then next down the line is Rodney Smith.
Hey there, guys. I'm just joining you from aviator school. I got my cockpit headset on here. I thought everyone was going to be wearing these ridiculous-looking things, and then everyone switched to tiny little headsets, and now I feel ridiculous. Thanks,
and
Joel.
You look ridiculous.
Everyone. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rodney. And then next down the line for me is Marty Cannell.
Hey, thanks for asking me to be on, Joel. I can't believe I'm here with all these other dudes.
Yeah. Watch out. Good to have you on. I think it was good to have you on. No, I'm not sure.
Well, we'll find out at the end of the recording if you still think that or not.
All right. And the next down the line is Matt Evans.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joel. I'm happy to be here.
Yep. And I am not telling people, not that everybody doesn't know. So Jamie does Secret Cabal podcast. Amazing podcast. One of the best out there. Rodney Smith, of course, does Watch It Played. Marty Cannell does Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and another awesome podcast. And Matt Evans does Board Game Replay, another YouTube channel, awesome YouTube channel. And next is Chaz Marler of Paradise. Hello, Chaz.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be invited. Rodney, pull up, Rodney. It's really great to be able to be here with all of you.
Nice, so good.
And Chaz, of course, has his own channel and also contributes regularly to the Dice Tower.
Yes, sir.
So we won't hold that against him, though.
Wait, there it is. Okay.
I was waiting for someone to say that.
So anyway, thanks for everybody for joining. I think we're just going to jump right into our lists, and then hopefully I'll have a little bit of time for like Q&A, and I'll be kind of monitoring chat. So if people have questions about some of the stuff we talk about, please feel free to shoot it, and I'll try to interject. So each of the top 3, and like I said, the lists are pretty different. There's only a tiny bit of crossover, and I kind of built the order based on that. So Matt Evans, you have been nominated to go first with your number 3 most anticipated game of 2017. What is it?
All right. I actually liked Sword and Sorcery is what I chose from published by Ares Games. It was put out, I think it was on Kickstarter in October of 2015, but it's due out like first quarter this year. And I'm really excited for that. It's from the same team, Gremlin Project, that did Galaxy Defenders, which I think is like a hugely underrated kind of like, just doesn't get enough attention. It's a really great cooperative like tactical minis game, and like based on like 80s 90s action movies, and it's really fun. And this is supposedly like, this is a fantasy setting version of that, and they said it's like a faster, not necessarily more streamlined, but like kind of, they said it's like the next iteration of that, kind of taking the like mechanisms to the next level, kind of speeding things up, and in this cool fantasy quest format. And so I'm really excited to see that. It looks gorgeous. It's got kind of the same simple system for AI activation, but like your heroes can be really powerful, and yeah, it's really interesting. I'm looking forward to that a lot. I think it looks cool. I think I really wish I had backed it on Kickstarter. I'm kind of kicking myself now, but it still looks like the retail product is going to be a pretty solid offering. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, the minis look really gorgeous. Like this is a big step up above Galaxy Defenders even.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny,
I saw on the Tabletopia website, they had like, I didn't know what the Kickstarter or anything, and then I saw they had like a prototype there, and they had all the models 3D rendered in Tabletopia, and I mucked around just stacking them and toppling them and stuff. But the miniatures looked really awesome.
So can I make a request from Rodney?
You can.
Rodney, right before you talk and at the end of after you're done, could you go? This is Rodney.
Roger.
So this game is based on Galaxy Defenders, and I've
Correct.
never played that game. When I look at it, it doesn't look similar. So is Galaxy Defenders like a really good game that I'm missing out on?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's you ever play the D&D adventure board games? Like it's kind of that
Sure,
same
man.
style of AI activation where you'll flip a card and it's like all blue demons activate, and then you look at the instructions, and if there's a set of maybe 2 to 3 instructions per AI card, and they all have different behaviors based on where they are and kind of what they have, and that same system for AI carries over into this game as well.
Mhm.
Without the D20.
Yeah.
It's more of like an Imperial Assault thing where you have kind of special dice, and then you kind of resolve bonus symbols and stuff on the dice too. So
Yeah,
that
the dice
works.
are really, really cool. Like different symbols, different guns, ammo, reloads, all that whole stuff. It's really interesting.
Yeah, the other thing that was nice about it is you have sort of like a campaign idea, and it came with an app, and so you had a lot of carryover, and so it was a nice. They did a good job with the campaign and sort of persisting your party and all that stuff. It works pretty well. It was very XCOM. There was the XCOM board game, which was like the super high level macro view of XCOM, but this was like the down in the trenches, moving your guys around, taking your turns. I mean, they could have easily just branded it XCOM and have been like, "Yep," because you like collected materials and weapons and from the aliens that you were fighting and put them together for technology and stuff. It's really cool.
And one real quick thing, one thing I'll say is like, sort of theme of some of the picks I have tonight is it's campaign style, but you don't have to play it campaign style. You can grab a mission look at any point and just play it at that point, because the more campaign games that come out, the less time I have to play through a full set. So a game like that, I can just grab a mission and go. This one looks to be Sword and Sorcery looks to be the same. Maybe, I hope.
Yeah, I think it looks good. It is definitely one that I considered for my top 3. It would probably be in my top 10. I didn't think about it too hard after that, but. So that was your number 3, and the next number 3, and I apologize if I'm like hurrying people along just because we have a lot of people. But number 3 is Jamie's, and I had not heard of this game, and I started looking at it, and I was like, this is definitely, I think, the most unique looking game on the list.
Huh.
Yes, my pick for most anticipated is Feudum. It was very recently on Kickstarter. It's probably coming out late in the year if they actually meet their deadline. But it looks like they're pretty far along with a lot of what they're doing. But basically, it's an extremely heavy, complex Euro, but it's got this whimsical fantasy world with this beautiful artwork with rolling hills and rivers and little towns all over the place, and a big ocean with a giant monster with a horn on its head and a sea monster sailing around in the ocean. And basically, you're moving your guys around. You have these different guys like monks and farmers and whatever, and you're moving them around the board and attempting to take over cities, becoming the lord of those cities. If you have the majorities in those cities, you become the lord, and everybody else are serfs. And you can upgrade those farms to cities, to go so on and so forth. And you're always trying to vie for supremacy in these different guilds, like the Farmers Guild, like the church, and all these different things. And you're basically going for victory points like any old Euro game, but it's a very complex style game. But I just think the gameplay looks so much fun to me. And I love super heavy, deep Euros. I just don't get to play them that often. And I think what really drew me to it initially was the artwork. The artwork was like, wow, I've never seen a Euro that looks so beautiful and it's so much theme integrated into each piece of it. But then when I dug in and saw the meat to the game, it really caught my eye. And I backed it on Kickstarter. And I'm really hoping that it does make the 2017. So my list is valid.
Yeah, the board itself is like really long. It's like 16 inches by 42.
Mm-hmm.
So it like draws out in this big like landscape type of thing. You think it almost looks like a big poster.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone's
really
curious,
cool.
they should go to the Kickstarter page because they have some really good videos there, like 3D renderings of the boards and pieces, and they do like a nice little kind of how to play, I think, and they fly you around the board and they show you all the different stuff, and it's kind of mind-boggling. Like, it's almost psychedelic the way it looks. Like
Right.
the art style is just, it's really engrossing, Jamie. I'm glad you put that one on your list because it's one that definitely caught my attention. I heard you guys talk about it on the podcast, and it made me look at it, and I thought this looks really cool.
And it's so intimidating though with the complexity, because even that really, really cool tutorial video that they shot with the 3D flying around all over the place. Really, I'm like 5 minutes into it, I'm lost as to what's going on. I really need to have it in front of me to figure this thing out. And that might be daunting or intimidating to some people. Like, I don't want to deal with reading a rule book that's going to take me a week to read. But I think that this game looks cool enough that I'm going to dive right into it. And it'll probably sit on a table like Arkwright is right now for the past 2 months. It's set up on the table and I still haven't learned it.
Nice. Yeah, that looks really good. I think somebody in the chat was asking. I just wanted to say it verbally for folks watching later. It's called Feudum. So it's Feudum. So yeah, definitely take a look at that one. That looks very, very interesting, and I'm super intrigued by it now.
There was a lot of buzz about it at BGG-Con this year. I heard at least a half dozen different people independently bring it up that they were also excited about it. So I know that there's a lot of anticipation for Feudum.
Well, the designer was there, and I actually got to sit down and talk with him for a bit.
Oh, you did?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, really, really nice guy. I think right now he's self-publishing. Is that correct?
I think that's correct. I think he's looking for a publisher or distributor.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
His name is Mark Swanson.
Yes. Yeah.
Right
real nice guys. Very passionate about it. They put a lot of time and hours and effort into playtesting and everything. I'm looking forward to that too.
And they did
Nice.
put a lot of time into the production too, and that's something I really appreciate when there's an art direction to the whole project. Like it wasn't just, I designed a great game, let's cheap out on the art and the components. It looks like they just went from beginning to end to make a great production, and I appreciate that.
Looks like a Stonemeyer type of thing, right? Like kind of looks like where someone said, "Okay, I'm going to make this great game right out of the gate."
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So moving along will be my number 3, but my number 3 is actually higher in somebody else's list, so we're going to skip me. So we're going to go to Rodney's number 3. Rodney?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I would say my number 3 is actually one that kind of I was sort of reminded of again preparing for this list. I had seen the game; it was on Kickstarter. It got me kind of jazzed up, and then it kind of went out of my memory. It was the Seventh Continent. Did you guys see this one as well?
Yeah.
So thematically, the idea, as I understand it, is you are sailing back to this 7th continent that has just been discovered, because I guess when you left from there on a previous expedition, you kind of got this curse. Like you're plagued ever since you left there. So you're going back there to try to lift the curse. And it's a solo or cooperative game that is inspired by those old choose your own adventure fighting fantasy games, right? The idea is that instead of going through this book, you're going through all these tiles. And I think first of all, art, again, beautiful, looks really lovely, but they're saying that playing time is like over 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
That was hard to believe, but if they can pull that off, wow, what a!
And I think the only way that I could conceivably play something like that, Jamie, given that length, is that you can play it possibly solo and cooperatively. I could see maybe having it set up somewhere and just kind of poking away at it over time.
Right. You got to get a dedicated table for this game.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. They said if you were to set up the whole map, I think they said. Was it 2 meters squared or something? Like it would be gigantic, right? Mm-hmm. Apparently they have some kind of what they call an easy saving system, so you can get up and walk away from it, or save and pack it away if you had to. But I'm really looking forward to this one. It looks interesting. It looks like something I might be able to just kind of have some fun with, either with a small group or just even on my own.
Yeah.
Jamie, is Seventh Continent one? Is this the same one that you were talking about a year or so ago on your podcast a lot? There was a storytelling-driven game that was on Kickstarter that you were getting a lot of buzz, and then it seemed to disappear for almost a year. Is this that same game?
Yes, this is one that I was really excited about at the time, and because of the solo aspect, exactly with what Rodney was talking about, setting it up on a table and just letting it there. And, okay, I'll walk by, I'll play for 15 minutes every, a little bit in the afternoon, a little bit in the evening kind of thing, just keep it going forever. This is one that it just really intrigued me. And I think that sounds fun because there's so much meat to the story. I mean, it talks about, if you go up into the mountains, there's a different story there, but you can turn left and go into the forest, and there's
Right.
another story in there, and you're different characters, and you meet different people, and you can get different items, and all of this just builds this essentially choose your own adventure game. And it looks so neat. It looks like a neat game. And
And
it's,
it
all,
sounds like
it's all card based. Like everything's cards. And I guess they have miniatures in the Kickstarter, but it's all cards other than that.
And looking at, I was looking at the list on BGG Con where they have like most anticipated titles of 2017. And that was definitely in there. But it's interesting to see all these games that are coming out this year with that campaign style mechanic with Seventh Continent and Gloomhaven and Folklore. That seems to be the thing for 2017 is this game that progresses over time through a campaign.
And that's really funny, Marty, because I like really I'm so happy that there are finally games, these dungeon crawl style games that aren't a campaign. Doom is one of them. I don't know, whatever I was just playing the other day. I don't remember, but like they're coming out where there's just, Conan was what I'm thinking of. They're just mission based games. I can play it once and then a month later I can come back and play it again. I don't have to remember anything. I'm just starting from scratch and playing a new mission. I just don't have the time to sit and play a campaign over 20 play sessions anymore.
Yeah, it wasn't not a couple of years ago. There was a dearth of campaign games, and now there's a glut, and it's just like, oh, it's too many now. Stop. I know we asked for this, but no, not.
Stop giving us what we want.
Yeah.
I didn't back Seventh Continent. My last thing I'll say is I didn't back it, and I regret it. I hope they open up the campaign manager again or something towards when they're getting ready to deliver. But yeah,
that was from the UK, right?
I think so. Yeah,
from France.
All right. So I'm going to move us along, and we're going to go to Chaz's number 3. Chaz?
All right. My number 3 is actually technically a reprint, I suppose. There's this game I watched reviews about, was out of print, and I always wanted to play. And about a year or two ago, I finally at a local convention, actually someone had it, got to sit down and play it, and really enjoyed it. And this is a game called Container. And this is a game, it's a little fiddly, but you're basically, everybody plays a shipping company with one of those long boats that puts all the big containers on, hence the name, and you ship them around. You create materials, and then you sell those materials to each other and fulfill orders, and then ship out your containers full of those materials. And what I really enjoyed about the game is that the players themselves established the economy within the game. For example, in the game that we played, one player actually, there's several, like 4 to 6 different types of materials that each player produces, and they have a little warehouse where they sell them to everyone else. One player tried to corner the market on one of those, get a monopoly, and drive its price way up. And that was a valid strategy to try. And there's a lot of competition. And I really like another game that kind of reminds me of the concept is Captains of Industry, where the players themselves kind of establish what the economy is going to be. It's not pre-established. You can go in any direction you want with pricing and stuff like that. So I'm hoping with this new version of Container that's coming out, I'm hoping that they retain the quality of the components. It had really amazing ships in it. And I'm also hoping that they streamline some of the fiddliness out of it. And if they accomplish those two things, that's what's making this one be the number 3 on my list for what I'm looking forward to, because it's been out of print for so long.
Chaz,
Who's
do you know?
publishing it?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
What was that?
Who is publishing it?
I do not know who is publishing the new version coming out. The information that I was able to find on it was just hearing it in a video, like in a news video a couple months ago, and then seeing it again on a geek list. But all of the information on Board Game Geek that I found still has just the 2007 versions information. So I don't know any of the technical details about the new version coming out.
So fake news.
I've heard that fake
Podcasters
too,
hate
actually.
him. Find out how to play Container with this one weird trick.
I did hear that news as well. And it's funny because that's a game I remember discovering so long ago and thinking, boy, that seems like a really cool concept because I love ships and I love shipping things and I love Euros and the components look so cool. And I was like, well, it's never around, and it's one of those games that just never comes back, so it's got to be coming back soon. But I heard that news too.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's somewhat accurate, Chaz. I got
Well, so when were the Kickstarter campaigns for the games that have been mentioned so far? How many years ago? So any game coming out, it's kind of a crapshoot.
All right. So yeah, I'm also looking forward to Container because that's one that's kind of been on the grail list, but you'd always look and it's like, hundreds of dollars or $150. And it's like, but the big ships and the whole player driven economy is always a big selling point for me.
I gotta say the name doesn't really draw me in.
No, yeah.
Bucket.
Okay. Moving along to Marty's number 3.
My number 3 is not a new game. It's a game that's been out for a long time, but it's a new version of the game that I've been very excited about. And Joel, I know that you're part of this too. About a year and a half ago, we pre-ordered War of the Ring, the anniversary edition. I missed.
Has it been that long?
Wasn't it?
Has it been
was it into 2014? 2015. I'm sorry, into 2015.
Gosh, maybe it has been. Okay. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's all right. So here's the thing. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. War of the Ring is one of the top games for many, many people, and I have never played this game. So, Joel, you're the one that talked me into this.
Yes.
I told you some of the stuff I liked, and I was like, man, this looks so good. And I saw the other anniversary or deluxe version they did. It looked really nice. And you just said, just do it. Get it. Trust me, you'll like it. And if you don't like it, I'll reimburse you. I'm pretty sure.
No.
How many times a day someone in this group say that to somebody else? Just get it, just do it, just buy it. Come on, man. Let's do it.
Ridiculous.
Now we're all playing Star Wars Destiny. Like,
so we all ended up with this.
Yes.
So that's been delayed now until hopefully this year it comes out, because I'm excited to try it for the first time.
Now, did you see they just posted on Ares on their Facebook page late last week pictures of the production copy of it? Have you seen that?
I did not. I missed that. That's good.
Okay.
I'm glad.
Yeah,
I got
definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it looks better than I thought it was going to look. The original collector's edition is ridiculous. It's this giant wooden book and all that. But this is absolutely stunning. I can't really explain. It looks really good. There's several books. There's like a lore book or something, and some gameplay guides and extra stuff. And the rule book is like these sort of they look like old school, not leather bound, but that special kind of binding book. You don't see that anymore, but this looks fantastic, top to bottom.
I saw the original. I think it must have been the BGG copy at BGG Con. Scott, he had it there. It was this giant. When you said wooden book, like people who are listening, it was literally a giant wooden book that you open up, and everything's all in there. It was glorious and like crazy, but it was something else. It was a huge tome, giant.
Yeah. This is not quite at that level, but you can actually put it somewhere and store it on a shelf. So it has that going for it. Okay, so that's all our number 3s. So we're going to swing back around to Matt, and Matt is now at his number 2.
All right. For my number 2 is This War of Mine, the board game. This was one that I got to play a prototype back when it was on Kickstarter. I want to say it was in May of last year, May of 2016. That sounds about right. That was one that kind of caught me by surprise. I'd never really played the video game before. I just kind of heard about it with the board game thing. Kind of people were getting hyped about a video game to board game thing. And I got a chance to play a prototype copy, and me and my group were actually pretty blown away by it. The whole concept of a social, like this like war-torn sort of society where you're playing as the survivors, and it's basically at its heart, it's like this crazy resource management like thing where you've got this like burned out, rundown house that you're trying to kind of border up the walls, and you're trying to build these new technologies and upgrade your heater and scavenge for supplies and food and things. But then you also have your survivors, your people, which also are essentially like a resource. And they all have like they have ailments they can get, they have like sanity levels you have to manage, hunger levels, cold, sick, all these different things you have to manage with your people as well. And it all ties together with a giant storybook. At least in the final copy, it'll be a giant storybook that sort of ties all these mechanisms together. So it's like this brutally difficult survival game tied together with this kind of above and below Tales of the Arabian Nights style like storybook. And I think the final one is like 1,000+ stories or something like that. 1,000+ little pieces. And the prototype I played had like maybe 12 or 15. There was like hardly anything there. But seeing the way the story tied into the mechanisms, it was so cool. You'd send your strong guys out on an adventure, and while you're there, you're digging through the furniture, and every one of those things you're doing, you're sort of raising the alert as you're making noise, scavenging around. And then you'd hit certain points where it's like, there's I forget the actual terminology, but there's something that would trigger a story event. And it was like, go to the book and read this, this color and this story. And there's all these randomizers and stuff. And, we were like, sometimes it was hugely drastic. It would like spawn some bad guys with weapons. And other times it would just, there was one time we were just exploring, and while these people were ripping apart this apartment, this like TV turned on, and commercial for pizza. And it had absolutely nothing to do mechanically with the game, but like your survivors just had this emotional moment where they were like, imagine living in a world where a pizza commercial is relevant. And it had nothing to do mechanically, but it just really drags you into like the despair and it just really made you feel for these characters. It's really cool. And there's kind of a lot riding on it. I think like the prototype copy I played was great, but I feel like they're making a lot of promises for the final one. So if that book comes out and those 1,000 stories are anything like the 12 or 15 that were in the prototype one, I think they've got a really cool game. Something that I don't think there's not quite a lot of other games I've played like that. I think it's got a really interesting take.
You said they made a lot of promises, and I think one of the biggest promises they made was this notion of you just open the box up, open up the book, and you just start playing.
Yes.
And that I was highly skeptical, partly because I was worried it would put me out of a job, but mainly because it just seemed like that's the kind of claim you make to get people to be interested in checking out your game and stuff. Like, does it really work? And I know when I played the prototype, it didn't really work, but they've had a lot of time to I guess work on that and improve it. What was your experience of that, Matt? Would you agree that it wasn't quite exactly a just open it up and off you go, you're on your way?
Yeah, I had some difficulty with the rules for sure. I mean, I think the concept of it, once I knew the rules, I spent some time, I emailed the designers and stuff, and I was kind of running back and forth with them. They answered maybe half a dozen questions or so, clarified some things, and then we were good to go. So it was a little bit of a slog at first. I think it was some translation issues and whatnot, coming from, I think it was a Polish game.
Yeah.
But once I knew what the rules were as they were intended, the concept of the rule book, like I did a video overview for it, and I sort of just turned the pages and I was like, okay, then this phase happens. And once I knew what was happening and I could sort of explain it, it makes a lot of sense the way.
Yeah, once you know the rules, then it makes learning the rules really simple.
Yeah, I think if they can, I know how that sounds.
There, maybe
a little bit.
I know how that sounds, but the idea of it, I think, with a little bit of fleshing out, I think the possibility is there. It's kind of like
they had the framework for it.
It's like learn to play books, where you like 70% of the rules going into it, and the rest are just like, just start the game. We'll teach you as you go.
Yeah,
and I think they can do that, and I think there's a lot of other cool stuff there to be had. I think their Kickstarter ended with like 600,000 euros or something, so they did pretty well. I think they're getting somewhat close to delivering. They'll be sometime mid this year or something, but I think it'd be really cool. I think I hope it does well. I had fun with the prototype.
This War of Mine is a video game that is ripe to be a board game because it feels like a video game playing. I played the video game and really liked it, but I had to quit because essentially the game is progress bars the game, because you gotta sit there and stare at progress bars the whole time. And a board game just sounds like it would even accommodate this type of game better.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on that, Jamie. When I tried to play this War of Mine, and I was like, why is this a big deal? This is boring. Mm-hmm. But watching the video on the board game and hearing Matt talk about it, I'm like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. And my dogs agree. All right. So that was Matt's number 2, and Jamie has a similar themed number 2.
Yes, it is not dissimilar to Matt's at all. It's called Outlive. This is a Euro game that takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, and it's kind of got sort of a cross between a Dead of Winter vibe and a This War of Mine vibe, but it is completely competitive. Each of you play different clans. Well, not clans, but like groups of people that are surviving this post-apocalyptic thing. And the board is like these cities and like a river and swamps and mines and all things all over the board. And you have these scout groups that go out that are of varying strength. And you have 3 of them that you move around the board, and it's basically like a worker placement game, but it's you don't place them, you move them. So they start off wherever you left them, and you move them to other locations, and you collect resources like wood and food and canned goods and water and all sorts of different things. And those are the things that you need to bring back to your shelter to repair equipment, to repair the shelter, to barricade the shelter, to feed all your survivors, and so on and so forth. And so that's the 2 phases of the game. It's the worker placement, going out and scavenging. Then the second phase is nighttime, when you're back in your shelter and you're dealing with all the problems that your shelter is. You can obviously get items and things, and you can build machinery and different rooms in your shelter. You can collect new survivors that have things that you can do for them. It's a really, really neat sounding game. I love the artwork. I love the basic mechanics that I've learned so far, like the worker placement mechanics, very cool. And it's also a conflict type game. So you can move your scouts into other people's spaces and hold them up for their canned goods and use ammunition back and forth to like keep your canned goods or to take their canned goods and things. You can go hunting for mutated animals, and it sounds like a really fun game. It's another one that I backed on Kickstarter that is promising to ship very soon. Should be in the first quarter here, but they say there are delays, so sometime in 2017.
I think you've got a theme going here with the boards that look like posters, because
Yeah.
this is a similar kind of board where it looks like they kind of, I don't want to say bolted on the action spaces, because it looks like they're really well integrated, but it's like you have this big, beautiful painting, and it's like, oh, here's all the cool stuff you can do in these spots.
I love that kind of stuff. I think that I gravitate towards games that artwork and theme are really well integrated into it like this, and it just shows that they put a lot of time into it, and I appreciate that, and it makes me want to try more, because there's so many games out there. You got to get down to the point where
Right.
art and components are a factor.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, this is another one I hadn't really heard of, and it's now on my to watch list.
Damn, that sounds cool.
So
Okay.
that's Outlive.
Outlive, yes. Okay, so now we are at a shared common game, and Rodney and I both have the same number 2.
Ooh.
Rodney, do you want to announce it, or should I?
Oh, you go ahead, Joel.
Okay, so it is The Godfather, the board game, which is coming out from Eric Lang and Cool Mini or Not, and I believe it's coming out summer-ish, around then.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out a little sooner this year,
Right.
and it's been pushed. And one of the things that's kind of unique before we even get to the gameplay is just when this game was announced, Cool Mini or Not, or Simon Games now, they were still doing a lot of Kickstarters, and they are still doing Kickstarters. They just launched one today. But this was kind of one of their big box games with miniatures in it that wasn't going to be one of these big Kickstarter things. It was going to be self-contained, everything within this one box, right? And I had a chance to try it out at the Cool Mini or Not Expo, and it's what's the tagline Eric calls it? He says it's not dudes on a map, it's thugs on a map, right? So you've got your gangsters, and thematically the idea is it plays into the story of The Godfather, where the players are the different dons, kind of deploying your thugs, your heads of families, and you're deploying your thugs and your don and your spouse even and your heir out into the city to take over different rackets and other nefarious deeds, right? And there's even this kind of briefcase thing that you're able to store stuff in, and that's where you kind of accumulate your points and your cash, because at the end of the game, no matter what activities you've done, it's all about whoever has the most money at the end of the game.
Right. Yeah, the thing that struck me about this one was, well, first of all, it's Eric Lang. It's an area control game, and I really like Blood Rage, but it also has the card play, and it looks like the cards are very much like a dual purpose kind of card, which is that's hitting right in all the different cylinders. Innis was a game that I really liked last year. I think it was like my number 4 or 5 or whatever for the year. And anything where you've got that kind of in your face, kind of head to head area control, and you've got to deal with this card hand management difficulty is just, I can play those kind of games 1,000 times. And the theme as well, I'm a big Godfather fan. Not as much as I used to be, but I had like a phase in high school where I used to watch, into college, I used to watch them like every winter. I'd watch the whole trilogy because the theme of those movies is not so much mafia, but it's more family, which is really odd. But so that Godfather always kind of sinks into me, this whole kind of weirdly dysfunctionally yet successful family kind of thing. So I know the gameplay probably doesn't touch on that, but the Godfather theme just always hooks me in. I'm like, oh, I got to see what that's about.
The miniatures too are incredibly. I mean, they look awesome. And you think of games like Blood Rage, and you have all these fantastical creatures, and how almost easy, I say quote unquote, to make a miniature look cool when it's this amazing monster with wings and horns flying out of it. But I was just really impressed with just the simple human clarity of these miniatures. They look like they were lifted right from the screen of the movie.
And what's the first player token?
Oh, it's the head, right? It's the horse's head.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
And you can take people's workers and you can whack them and you dump them in the river, and then you have to get them back out of the river if you want to use them again. You talked about the hand management. The other thing about this game that I'm remembering now is you have this limited hand size that changes each round too. So you may have this hand of amazing things, and you're only going to keep 3 of them, and it becomes this really difficult decision. But how can I effectively use enough of these so I get the most out of them before I'm left with some I can't use and have to get rid of? It was really, really cool. And I'm sure they've even done more development since the time we played the prototype, even because when we played, it was like panda bears and all this other stuff because it was a prototype.
And Eric Lang said that the board is going to be gorgeous. It's like it's this really nice drawing of New York City. And he said it's just, he saw some early art of it, says it's just going to look really good. So I can't wait to see that.
Nice. Okay, so that's our number 2. Now, moving on to Chaz, his number 2 was my number 3. And since I got to announce the last one, I'll let Chaz do this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, my number 2, I hope I kept my list in the correct order. My number 2, this is a game that at Origins last year, doing interviews with the Dice Tower, I sat down with the guys from IDW, and one of the good games that they showed off during the interviews was the Wasteland Express Delivery Service, which is it's set in this post-apocalyptic world. The art in this game, oh no, I forgot the name. I was going to look it up again. Back in the early 90s or so, late 80s, early 90s, there was a comic book artist that did a comic book called Big Boy. I'll have to Google it while you're talking. But anyway, the art reminds me of this famous comic book artist's art. And that right there sucked me in. That was the first thing that sucked me in. And then the theme and the way you're driving these trucks around and everything that they were saying about it, ever since that day at Origins, I've been waiting for more information on this game.
Yeah, the artist name is Jeff Darrow.
Yeah.
He did Big Boy. He also did another one called Hard Boiled with Frank Miller.
Yes.
And that is the most ridiculous comic book I've ever read, I think. It's just gratuitous violence on top of violence. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, the art is striking. It is very, very striking. And like you said, the truck miniatures are like these Mad Max jerry-rigged contraptions with spikes and, different little things that you can do. And they've got little places you can put the tokens to actually load and deliver these goods. And I love the kind of tongue-in-cheek, sort of whimsical Mad Max look of it's post-apocalyptic, but hey, we have a business and we're this delivery service and we're going to be running around doing this whole pick up and deliver thing. And
it doesn't look like it takes itself too seriously.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I believe the board is modular or something. It's made up where you can kind of, at least several months ago. I believe the idea was that it could kind of mixed and match to keep the layout fresh every now and then.
Yeah, I can't remember what it reminds me of. It's not Notre Dame because there's the Stefan Feld game Notre Dame, but the pieces are real kind of funky hexagons with these weird wedges drawn on them, so that the actual spaces aren't all the same shape. They don't end up being anyway once you connect everything. But there's another game that it reminds me of, and I can't think of it. But yeah, it looks like a very kind of replayable kind of thing. In terms of going over like hazardous terrain or nuclear wastelands and swamps and everything, and trying to plan your routes out.
And if you're like an insert fanatic like I am, the game trays guy, the guy who did the inserts for Mechs vs. Minions, is doing custom trays are going to be included in the game for this one as well, and they look amazing. And he's even doing some new stuff he hasn't done in previous inserts with labeling and stuff like that. Anyway, it's
oh wow,
I think it's gonna be a very nice presentation. It's gonna look pretty awesome. My interest in it has gone like this over the last couple of months.
Is Insert Fanatic a new label that we're putting on people?
Maybe
called Insert Fanatics.
Gotta have an insert in there.
Just wait till there's a micro badge for it, then.
That's for real. I'm leading in charge if there is.
Yeah, the only last thing I wanted to say about that one was the pedigree of the designer. You've got Matt Riddle and Ben Pinchback, who've done a couple of games that I like, and Jonathan Gilmore, who did, of course, Dead of Winter, and I think he's got a couple other games coming down the pike. One that I play tested, which probably won't come out until 2018, but that's also really good. So I'm pretty excited to see how those three minds all kind of meld.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that is our number 2 and 3, and now we're on to Marty's number 2.
So for my number 2, I thought for sure somebody else was going to put this on the list because I thought, I'm sure we'll all be talking about this, but nobody else did. So I'm glad to get it on here. And that is First Martians from Portal Games. And I'm excited about this one because it's in pre-order right now. It's coming soon. It's not one of those Kickstarters that we hope, have our fingers crossed. It is going to be coming soon. I got to play a demo of this last summer. And if you've played Robinson Crusoe, it's going to feel very similar to you. Some of the mechanics are the same, but the theme is totally different. So you're on Mars, and one thing you have to do, you have to send out rovers to go out and get materials. And you're back in a base, and you have this life support system and energy that you have to manage. So there's a lot of resource management. So there are these cubes. And what I like about this is like each of the systems, you have these green cubes that are like the LED bars on a gauge. And once they start going down, bad things start happening. So you got to keep your gauges up. So it's a lot of resource management. But the really cool thing about this is the app integration. And we've seen this before with games like XCOM integrating apps. And talking to Ignacy, the amount of thought and time he's put into this, I really hope it's as good as what they're hoping it will be. There is a campaign that's broken down into scenarios. And so that you could just play a standalone scenario, or you could put it part of an ongoing campaign that you can play over several sessions. One of the neat things is if you play a campaign, decisions you make in the first is remembered by the app and could affect you later on. For example, one of the things you may be tasked to do while you're playing the first scenario, it says, make sure you get enough food for some reason, to make sure your sewers survive. Well, you could finish the scenario and win, but not finish that side quest. And what happens is, and maybe the second or third scenario, something pops up and says, yeah, remember when I told you get all that food? You didn't do it, and now you're going to pay for it.
It's like not face up on the screen. Polish accent.
So I'm really excited to see how that all works together and everything. And it's on pre-order right now if you want to go check it out.
Marty, that's awesome. That's like similar to Robinson Crusoe is now, in the respect that you shuffle those cards, or you put the cards in the discard and they come back up later. This is like just exploding that into multiple games. Like, what a neat idea. I really think that Robinson Crusoe is a masterpiece of game design.
Yeah.
And I'm so confused how there are so many games out there that designers emulate other designers' games. And it doesn't seem like Ignacy gets emulated that much. And I find that crazy because his games are so unique from everybody else's. And I really think he's one of the best game design minds there are in the world right now. And this is just one level beyond the masterpiece that was Robinson Crusoe. So I can't wait to see it.
Right, and he's
I
also
think that's
promised some DLC. So that's what's nice about this game. Just like with Descent, where you can get new scenarios, or with Mansions of Madness, the same thing's going to be happening with this game. So once you play through the scenarios, he's promised to include more. But he also, and this is 6 months ago, things may have changed. He wants to get the community involved. He wants the community to have tools and everything, or provide input to him to create stories that he'll then put into the app.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah, Marty, this was definitely like probably number 4. And I know I spoke about this earlier, but when I was trying to make my list, I was trying not to do stuff that like had a predecessor, or, like Rising Sun was sort of like the successor to Blood Rage. I was like, okay, let me put that aside and try to dig for something that was sort of unique IP or something. But this one could be my number 1 if we were doing like a top 10 and I had some room to make sure I squeeze these other ones in. Because I watched Ignacy, he just posted a video like the other day, maybe last week, on how he broke down and he explained a lot of like what you just talked about with how the campaign's going to work, how it's kind of like you can do like a normal campaign or a legacy campaign, or play it one shot. So it's like real sort of plug and play for your play style. And he talked about the difficulty level. So the app also controls the difficulty level. So if you want to play with hardcore gamers, quote unquote, or take it to family game night, you can tweak the difficulty level and you can kind of play it more for the story or more for the combativeness and everything.
Cool.
Yeah. This was supposed to come out. He had hoped at Essen last year, and one of the things that they ran into was, because they want to support a single shot and campaign, they said that was the tough part, because a single shot may have been too easy, or the single shot may have been too hard, and then too easy. And then if they tweaked it, then it was too easy in the campaign. So they had a really tough balancing act between, if I just want to sit down and play a single shot or make it part of a full campaign.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
I know we probably have to move on, but I thought Jamie's observation was really interesting. The fact that Ignacy is such a he's a great designer, and Jamie, you're right. Like, people aren't really emulating some of these masterpieces he's made. Maybe it's because these masterpieces are such, like, he almost looks miserable at this point. Working on this game, but like that and Stronghold, these are like really like these ambitious big games with like totally asynchronous play and all this stuff. And yeah, this was First Martians was on my list at number 4. I think because I just came off of learning and doing a tutorial for the new release of Robinson Crusoe. I'm not as like hyped up about it, but I'm very keen to see how this turns out.
Tired of it now?
I hope this rule book is good. That's all.
Okay, so that was Marty's number 2. Now we're gonna skip Matt's number 1 because I don't want to hear about it.
What?
Go ahead, Matt.
I gotta be that guy. I'm sorry. It's more the more broad picture. So
What was it? Kama Sutra? The new Vajupati game?
That picture. Joel just sent me that picture of like these guys in like compromising positions while the dude next to him was like playing Kalis, and that was like
They're not even paying attention.
That is such a staged picture. There's no way.
It so is. It's so ridiculous. Oh man.
Hold on. I want to write down what I think you're going to say. I'm going to see if I'm right.
I gotta be that guy. I'm gonna say Destiny, Star Wars Destiny, Spirit of Rebellion. The next
Let's
set
see.
releasing.
There it is. I wrote it down.
Of course.
Nice.
So let me just explain a little bit, right? So I would say not necessarily this next set am I excited for so much as like, obviously it's more cards for a game and I'm really playing a lot, but also it's kind of like the future of the game and where it's going to go. By the second set, they're have probably some of the distribution stuff sorted out, hopefully. We're going to see what the life of the game is down the road. We're going to see a new set of cards. We're going to see how like that balance shakes out. So far, one of my experience with it, I've played it probably more than any other game this year. I've been able to play it remotely with friends, like with you guys, getting a ton of those plays in. It just keeps hitting the table because it's fast, it's fun, it's like, I can get it out pretty much any old time. I can play it with any of my friends here. I can play it with you guys remotely, and I like the different variety, the amount of variety I have, like switching up different characters and switching out the different kinds of decks. And making a deck just based on a fun theme and going with that, and that's a good time. So a second set, I'm curious to see kind of how the balance of the game continues to shake out. So far, from what I've seen, I don't follow the meta too closely, but so far it's a pretty well balanced game. There's not like anything that's super dominating the meta, right? So I think that so far they did a really good job balancing the initial 174 cards. So when the second set comes out, I'm really curious to see how the designers have continued that, and how the life of the game continues beyond that. That's what I'm excited to see.
Now Chaz hates it, so
Gonna knock down those clouds.
oh, he left.
I think he jumped off those clouds. I don't know.
I love how the credibility was so scarred by the fact that you made that review of the game and then played the game multiple times and posted about it.
And I just played Chaz last night on Skype. So,
Now let me make a clarification here for those who took a very topical view of the video. If you dig down into the substance, the subtext of what was being said, I agree it is a fantastically designed game. I rated it like 8.5. It's a great game. I hope that it's popular. I hope it's this popular this time next year, and it's not the Star Wars license that's artificially propping up the game engine. But
right, because all that money you spent will have been wasted. All these will be useless. All the careful sleeving and
mountains of dice that have been bowls all over this room. It's a more room than any game.
Thanks for your support.
yeah, that's what Esmede's saying right now. Oh,
So I have a question about it, Matt. With the expansion, is that all Rogue One stuff, or is it just what is it?
It's heavily weighted towards Rogue One. I think they're saying so far what they've previewed is a bunch of Rogue One characters, and it's a little bit of everything. Like Palpatine's in there and stuff. So yeah, I mean it's a little mix of everything, but I think they're favor sort of the Rogue One stuff, like getting some of those characters in, which makes sense. I mean, if you've got the IP, they're gonna want you to lift up the current media, but. No, the set looks cool, man. I mean, look, they got Emperor Palpatine. He's the first guy that if you run 2 dice with him, he's 28 points. He's your entire team. It's just Palpatine.
Oh, okay, wow.
Super dirty ability. Like every time he uses one of his dice, he just deals 2 damage to somebody on your team. You get to choose, but once you get down to one character, like Palpatine is just ripping apart your team. Like super thematic. I can't wait. It just looks really fun. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. The model sucks. Collectible models are awful. I think it's terrible, but. I understand
you're ripping open those packs and you're loving it and you're smelling the car.
That part is. I mean, listen, I love it, but I hate the money, the distribution, the whole thing.
We all hated it, Matt, and you and Marty wore us down.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. Don't get mad, Rodney. What are we doing right after this?
We're gonna have a match.
It's the tournament championship, is what it is.
They're waiting for you.
Oh, well, what's so interesting about this game is the fact that, and what Matt said, you can play it plays so fast, and I know Rodney hates this, but I'm sorry, when you can get pretty much all the rules that you need on the front and back of this thing, that's pretty good. And it's such a straightforward game. It's your turn. You have these actions, go. And I know, Chaz, you said one thing you had an issue with is there wasn't a reaction thing to it. To me, that's what stands out to me is that there is no reaction window, because what's removed from this that is in stuff like Ashes and Netrunner is this whole timing window flow chart that doesn't need to exist for this game. And for me, I think that just makes it flow even faster.
Marty, do you really think that they're not going to have interrupts and stuff? It's going to happen.
I don't know.
I don't know. They might not. This might be the framework of this game is that it doesn't. It's certainly open that they could throw it in there.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm trying to think of the game. There was a game that was designed similar to this. Okay, if you look at a game like Soulforge, which is an app-only game, sort of like Hearthstone, and they really attacked that to be a completely turn-based thing. So they built a lot of sort of like reactive things that you can sort of queue up, but you were never actually interrupting. So I think if they have an app in mind, which they might because they've done a lot of apps, so they may stick to that. I don't know. Who knows, really? But
Cool.
So okay, enough Destiny.
Good.
Hey,
Now
you got the starter packs I sent you, right, Joel?
I did. Yes, we played a couple of games. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yesterday or Sunday, and it's really fun.
I love the resignation.
I mean,
Gravity feed time.
yeah, it's getting there, but the cheapest I can find online is $90, and I'm like,
And you got to come to Canada for it.
yeah, I gotta smuggle it in. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Dice Masters hurt me, so anyway, enough of that. So we're gonna get to Jamie's number one, and this is the other Martian game.
Yes, it seems that 2016 and 2017 are the year of the Martians, probably all based on Matt Damon and him running across Mars. And this is the only reason that I did not put Ignacio's Martian game into my list, is because I had Martians, A Civilization Story, as my number one. This game looks ridiculous to me. I mean, it looks fantastic. Again, Joel, the board is like a landscape of Mars with buildings all over it, and solar panels and mines and things. And what's really neat about this game, it's a Euro game and it's a worker placement game. You have across the top of the board, each player has their own little base, like their living quarters, and you have to make sure that they have air and they have food and they're healthy, they're not sick. And you send your workers out all over Mars and you do different things. You build buildings, like you build an education center. You go to the mines in the center of the board, which are tiles, and you pull up tiles with a little digger module, and you pull up different resources, and you're building, solar panels to generate power, and so on and so forth. And you're doing all this Euro-y stuff while managing your own little living quarters and making sure everybody's healthy. What's the best thing about this game is it's a competitive game, and it's a co-op, and it's a semi-co-op. You can play in any one of those three modes. And when I was kind of researching into it, they all sound very viable. I was very skeptical of that concept. Like, how are they going to do that? But it seems to work. They worked it out somehow, at least in theory. There's just one collective. All four buildings at the top are everybody's buildings, and all resources are collective. And there's a scenario where you have to overcome certain problems. Dust storms will fly in and things. You have to deal with it. And the semi-co-op is basically the competitive, but you could all lose if you let certain things happen. I just think this game looks like a lot of fun. It's almost like a microcosm of a Civ game. Like it says, a story of civilization. You're building essentially like a little community, and you have to make sure you're building the buildings, you're powering everything, and you're keeping everybody happy and fed. And it just seems like a small Civ game in like a 2-hour window. I like it. It looks cool, and I'm excited about it.
Now, I have another art question, I guess.
Huh?
Those little miniature buildings, do those come with the game?
No, they do not. Those are Kickstarter extras.
Ah.
And really what they do is they cover up the artwork on the board.
Oh, okay.
Which, to be honest with you, I would not want them. I like the art on the board better than I like the miniature myself. But yes, all those little mini dudes and stuff, they're meeples in the retail version.
Okay. Those are pretty fancy buildings. Those are ridiculous. But yeah, that
just looks like a beautiful production.
Yeah, I've always liked the concept of what's the Sid Meier's space Civ game?
Beyond
Alpha Centauri.
Centauri?
Yeah, just like a Civ game on another planet. That would be really, really fun to play. So
I don't know if there are any monsters that dig up through the ground and eat you, but
well,
maybe. Who knows?
Hopefully not. Yeah.
There's a lot of event cards. Just sounds like a fun game. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, sounds very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So all 3 years were Kickstarters too.
Yes, oddly enough.
I did not realize that.
I didn't back this one though. This one was one that I just sort of got interested in after it was gone.
I see. Is this their first game, Red Imp? No, it's not.
Know. I didn't look that deeply.
They've done a couple. So yeah, I think I played on. Oh, they did the Lord of the Ice Garden. I don't think I played that one though. I remember hearing about it. This had some decent buzz a couple years ago, but I don't think it came across to the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, Martians, A Story of Civilization. Looks very cool.
All right. So that was your number one. Oh, now we're at my number one, which is a game called Brazil. And this is basically because of the two designers. It's Nuno and Paulo who did Panamax and Madeira, and it's from What's Your Game. And I really just seem to enjoy just about every game that What's Your Game puts out, especially when it's from Nuno and Paulo. It's one of those gorgeous looking boards that ends up having like a lot of tracks and different things that you're trying to keep track of, but it somehow still looks gorgeous. And it's basically running a mining operation in Brazil. And I think this one is supposed to be a little bit lighter than their normal fare, which will be nice because maybe I can play this one with the family, maybe. But yeah, it's been a little while since they have done a game. Railroad Revolution came out last year, which, well, actually, I don't know that it's out here yet. I'm not sure. But that was a game I really enjoyed and wish I had a chance to play more. I played it a couple times at a convention, and that was really fantastic. And they just do like a nice sort of twist on the whole Euro thing. There's always just some kind of little different thing that just kind of hits all those Euro cylinders that I really like. Sometimes they're a little point salady, sometimes they're just a little bit solitaire-ish in a way. Not all the time, but so I'm really looking forward to this one, just because I don't know what it is about their designs. They just have this weird quirk of just shaking up the game space in a different way that I'm always looking forward to.
Do you know what the main mechanic of the game is? Is it worker placement, resource management?
No, I don't. I'm not really sure. I just know it's mining, and you've got your own player boards and stuff. But
thanks for help.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Glad you looked into it.
Well, I'm sure there's some kind
This is your number one? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it Brazil with an S or a Z?
An S. It's with an S. It doesn't say on the video on the board geek page.
Say the mechanism, yeah. It says city building, civilization, economic, and exploration. Modular board, press your luck, player power, worker placement.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Nuno and Paulo game, so it's going to have some kind of worker placement thing. But
I've never played a What's Your Game game, and I feel like I'm hearing about them more and more.
They are
really
good.
No,
Oh
not a
my
single
God.
one. Yeah, I know.
I guess Panamax is not a What's
I'll just
Your
jump
Game.
out of this plane.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that was
It's
Yeah.
a stronghold.
Yeah. Have you played Panamax?
I haven't. No.
Oh.
What?
So
Sorry,
you guys
there's
play?
thousands of games, guys.
Yeah.
I'm busy playing Destiny.
Yeah.
You got to play. You got to play Panamax. You got to play Madeira. I think you got to play Railroad Revolution. To me, those are the top three of that sort of. I mean, they're not all the same designer or the same company, but
Was
They sort
Napalm? What's your game? What's your?
yes,
Yeah.
the Bond's good.
I love that one.
Is that's okay? Yeah, I confuse that with Zangguo. Zangguo is okay. It was good, but Napalm is the better of those two. I think they both came out like not last year, but the year before.
Ron, you realize expand your horizons and try Euro games.
Stop it.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited. I'm glad to hear there's like this whole other area of games from this company I haven't even explored yet, and I'll have to jump into one of them. I've been hearing a lot about Railroad Revolution around BGG Con, I think.
Yeah.
It was. And, that sounded good.
Yeah, Nippon and that Signori, they call them worker placement games, but they're so like odd. I know Signori's dice, but
I love Signori.
yeah, but they're not really like worker placement. Not like Kalis, where you go and like take a spot and that. It's this weird like, it's almost like an action point allowance selection thing. Like the color of the worker matter and how many of them are in a spot will sort of change the dynamic of what's going on. Or you have like multiple actions you can do in a certain spot.
It almost feels like Nippon was a war game that was rethemed to an industry building game. Because it really is like a territory control game, and you could very easily just be soldiers taking over their territories, but you're really just sending products out. You're building factories with machines to send out product. I thought that was what was really cool about it. I could get my war game friends into it because they're like, it's got a lot of the same mechanics going on there. They got a lot of, oh man, What's Your Game's got good stuff.
Yep, they do.
Now you got me excited for this one.
Yeah, see, even though I don't know how it works.
About it from Matt's 30-second Google.
All right, moving on. knew I would regret having Marty on here.
He's an instigator, is what he is.
Yep.
He's like Woody Woodpecker.
So Rodney's number one. What's the mechanic in this, Rodney?
Well, I can tell you, and I can spell it too. The one, my number one pick is from Jamie Stegmaier, Charterstone, his upcoming legacy game. This is a competitive legacy game, so it's not like your Pandemic Legacy. This one you're going head to head. Thematically, I guess my understanding is you get this very prosperous kingdom, and the king has decreed that 1 to 6 of his citizens are going to go out beyond the borders and start to colonize that land. And I thought that was interesting. 1 to 6, 1 to 6, a legacy game that you can play solo. So that kind of just intrigued me in concept. But the idea here is, again, you play over the course of, I think it's 12 games, and the game is meant to start simple. You have a board and you're taking simple actions, but then similar to, I think he compared it to Lords of Waterdeep and Kalis, you're building buildings onto spaces, and these become permanently stickered there, and these open up new actions that players can take. And so every time you play, by the end of your 12 games, you'll have a radically different board than everyone else, because I think there are 100 buildings that come with the game, but only 36 spaces. So your board at the end will be very different than everybody else's, depending on what buildings get built. And then the idea is that you can continue to play the game after that with your own sort of unique colonized setup. Now, I don't know of anyone who ever did that with Risk Legacy. I think always the fun of that was sort of working through the 15 games. I don't know if people actually played Risk on that board afterwards, although I think that was rumored you could do it. But it seems to me like the fun of these kind of games is actually just going through the exploration and changing things and ripping things up, right?
That was the only thing that was fun about Risk Legacy, was the legacy.
Yes, right.
Risk.
Yeah.
Is Charterstone is it going to be kickstarted?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that, Chaz, because I wanted to say that. No, it's not only not going to be kickstarted, but it's also not going to be pre-ordered. It's going straight to retail. So this is, I think, maybe one of. I think it's his first definitely big box game where he's going straight to retail with it. So if you want to get the game, you should talk to your retailer and ask them to get it in for you to pick up.
Do you know what the ETA on it is?
Listen, Joel couldn't even tell you one mechanic. Cut me some slack here. I think if I remember correctly, June or July, something like that. And the artwork is very whimsical and light, and I really like the art styling of it. Anyone who hasn't, I think there's a Facebook page for now you can go to and join, and it's got all kinds of beautiful art and pictures and that sort of thing. I trust Jamie Stegmaier now as a designer and publisher. I have a feeling, at the very least, I'm going to be very pleased with the quality of the game, and I suspect I'll get my 12 games worth out of it.
Yeah. Similar to Joel, if
yeah,
Jamie?
You're right, Jamie.
How can you not trust Stegmaier? He has not missed yet, not a single time. Now, he hasn't put out as many games as a lot of other designers, but he has not missed in his designs.
Mm-hmm. Similar to Joel, if we were making a top 10, this one would have squeezed in like number 1 or 2 for me, because really looking forward to seeing what he does with the legacy system.
And honestly, a solo legacy.
Honestly, with this list, like if you ask me tomorrow, it could be different. Because I'm so excited about probably 20 different games coming out next year already.
All right.
Let's hear some more.
Yeah. Now we're moving to Chaz's number 1.
All right. Well, my number 1 is also Star Wars Destiny.
Live.
Sorry. So my number 1 is a game that I really enjoy. I enjoy when it came out, the concept of it was like, oh yes, finally a game like this, and I enjoy the game. It has a couple of issues that have kept it from getting to the table for as often as I'd like, but the game I'm actually looking forward to as number 1 is an expansion for this existing game, and this is the Embers of a Forsaken Star expansion for Xayah. Xayah is a sandbox game. You get a spaceship, you got these planets, you fly around, you can do missions, you could be a pirate, you could be a bounty hunter. Totally as open-ended as I think it could possibly be. And that's what really drew me to it. There's 2 problems with Xayah that I encountered when I was playing it, though. The first one is that if you're playing with like 5 players or so, there's a lot of downtime potentially between the player turns, between your next turn. To the point where like you can go and make lunch and eat it and then come back and you're in time for your turn. I've heard rumors that the expansion introduces some new things that mitigate that. So I'm really excited to see if that's addressed in this. And the other problem with Zaya is when you're playing this game, when you come away from it, you're just like, well, now I want more stuff. I want more planets and more ships and more options and more missions and more cards. More, please. And so the expansion is supposed to introduce, a lot more of everything, which I'm really excited about, because when you have a game where you can go in any direction, you want as many directions as possible to go in. So that's Zaya, Members of a Forsaken Star expansion.
You got me excited.
My number 1
game. It is so
Pardon?
ridiculously good. Zaya is an amazing game. It's so good. And I'm, again, a backer of that expansion as well. And that exact thing, you talked about with downtime, it's because you're taking like 25 actions on your turn. You're moving.
They need to make a game where you take 1 action only.
It's fun for that guy, but you're waiting a long time. But
Sadly, I did not care for Zaya, so I won't be commenting. But
what?
no, I didn't like it.
I came into Joel's house and praised Zaya.
Mission accomplished, Chaz.
So, all right, sorry, moving along. So we have is it the last game? The last number 1 falls to Mr. Marty Canal.
So for anybody that listens to our show, they know that me and my co-host Tony really got into this industry through playing card games and CCGs and everything. So when the LCG system came out, we said, that's it. We're swearing off CCGs forever. Okay, well, yeah. But aside from that, so a couple years ago, I was very excited when Legends of the Five Rings was moved from AEG as CCG over to FFG as LCG. Is that enough acronyms right there?
Well done.
You're A-okay.
And so here's the deal. When I was in a community here that had a large amount of Legend of Five Rings players, I'm just going to call it L5R from now on. And when like Netrunner came out, a lot of people migrated over to it, but then a lot stayed with Legends of the Five Rings. They didn't like it as much. So I was always very intrigued by that game, but because of the CCG model, I didn't want to get into it. I played a demo game. I thought this is pretty cool, but I'm not going to dump any money into it because I said I would never play another CCG again. So I'm very excited this summer. I believe it's supposed to be at Gen Con when L5R LCG comes out for FEG. I want to see, now I can experience the game and see how it's played without dumping a bunch of money into it, because instead I'll probably still be dumping a bunch of money into this. So I can't wait to see how the game plays, see what everybody around here was so excited about. And it's just one of those things that's, I just love my card games, and I love Netrunner. I've kind of moved away from it now. I loved Ashes. I still play it if they will release some more stuff. So I just can't wait to see what this game does. And I can't wait to see if they do what AEG did and have an RPG where the two things are tied together.
Like Shadowrun? Or
I don't know if it's like Shadowrun, but with AEG, there would be events in RPGs or the LCG that would affect the other.
Just the product line.
Yeah, there was a tying in, the two products would somehow tie in together. Maybe there was an RPG book that came out that had to go along with the new series of cards that came out. I told another story.
And with all your acronyms, I didn't quite catch that. Are they reintroducing L5R as, is it still the CCG model, or
no? It is LCG.
They are changing it.
Unless this made them change their mind, it's supposed to be LCG.
Yes, it is LCG, I think.
Has anybody else played L5R? I played like a demo game when they released that. Remember they had that box set with the hexagon, and you could play multiplayer. We played a multiplayer, and like it was kind of weird. I didn't get enough sense of it though to really make a judgment or anything. But is it basically a two-player game most of the time?
It is. Okay. It is basically. And if it's like they have with every other LCG, there'll be a huge organized play support.
Yeah,
They'll be part of all the tournaments and everything, I'm sure.
that's good.
Minimum 2 core sets.
Yeah. If it's 3 core sets, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my mind. I can handle 2. I can handle 2, but 3, come on. Chaz, tell us about having to buy two things like in Destiny. 2 starters.
You're gonna get me beaten up.
Well, no, Chaz, that's a valid point. That's a valid point when I want a second die for Poe or Ray.
I gotta go spend $12 to $15 just to get that second fin dice. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah, I think
Jamie was thinking it.
I was thinking it.
I know we've gone through our list, but I have to say, like what Jamie said about how malleable these lists could be, like within 24 hours. I wrote down some other things. Like just today, I saw an announcement for the new Days of Wonder game, Yamata or something like this. And that looks gorgeous, visually stunning, and that just draws me in. It's Days of Wonder, and they usually just kind of focus on one, stunning game a year type of thing, right? Like they had, was it 5 Tribes the last thing that they
Quadropolis.
released?
yeah.
Quadropolis, right. And this one feels more like a return to kind of the 5 Tribes, a little heavier, a little more going on. You know what I mean? And that one looks spectacular. Nobody mentioned Rising Sun. I know that's one a lot of people are really excited about, right?
Yeah.
Just
I'm
lots.
excited about Century from Plan B Games,
Yes,
Emerson's
yes.
game.
Oh, yeah, that was my.
Oh yeah.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah, there's a couple others. I mean, like Pandemic Legacy Season 2. I mean,
Right.
that should be good. Now there's Empires of the Void 2nd edition. I don't know if you ever played the 1st edition, but it was like really close to being a good game. It's from Ryan Lockett, who did all those games, Near and Far, Above and Below, and it had this
Back
really
and forth.
fun, left to right LCR. It had a really fun space 4X theme and some really interesting kind of combat mechanics and the way resources worked. And obviously he drew everything and illustrated everything, so it looked gorgeous. But I know
It
he's
comes with miniatures now for all the ships.
Oh, does it?
It does.
Oh. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. That would be kind of my honorable mention.
And Space Cowboys, they're doing that Unlock series, which is like an escape room type deal, and that looks kind of fun too. I'm kind of intrigued about that.
Yeah.
And Plaid Hat Games will have some stuff coming out this year, I'm sure, as well. They've been kind of quiet lately because of all the being bought and rebought and all that stuff that's going on. But I think they're finally starting to settle in. I think they'll have some interesting announcements this year as well, which I'm looking forward to. So there's going to be a lot to keep us all chatting about games. That's for sure.
Has there been any announcements on the next Ashes expansions? Or with all of the hubbubbery going on with the selling and buying, have they kind of just been?
There will be. Yeah, there'll be some dates given for the next things coming out. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
My honorable mention is just about everything that Games Workshop's going to put out this year.
Oh yeah.
That just so that everybody out there will say that I'm getting paid by Games Workshop.
Right.
But no, I'm looking forward to the next Warhammer Quest that's coming out that they're talking about doing. I'm talking about all the Blood Bowl teams that they're going to be coming out with, all the the star players. They were talking about doing that. What is it?
Hopefully Necromunda sometime.
Oh yeah. They were talking about doing that one pretty soon. What's that one, Joel, that we were talking about? The basically epic again. It was
Adeptus Titanicus, something like that.
Oh, if they do that, I will have it. I'll buy 3 copies.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks really good. Now that's not like epic though. It's going to be just all the large scale. So it's epic, but like without all the infantry.
Sure.
Just all the big stuff. But yeah, that's what you really want to play with, right? So yeah, I mean, you could throw Games Workshop in there for me. I'm actually picking up the new, I know this is not a board game thing, but the new battle tome for the Tzeentch armies, which I have a lot of because I have Warhammer Quest Silver Tower, which comes with a lot of Tzeentch, and I picked up a couple other models. And the battle tome, I've been listening to podcasts and stuff about it. It just looks really awesome. So I apologize. They're watching this like, you're a board game guy. Shut up.
Joel has turned into a miniatures painting and assembling machine.
Yeah,
I have, you can kind of see behind me on this side. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
I've been-
Is anybody
Blurry
excited about Rune
line.
Wars?
I am. Yes, but it's kind of, I don't know. It looks really different. Like I've been playing Age of Sigmar, and so like I'm looking at it through that prism, and I'm like, why did they do this? That's not how Age of Sigmar works. And I'm like, wait, it's a different game. And
Which is so funny, Joel, because that is so opposite everybody that's played GW for the past 30 years, you know? Like they're like, why is Age of Sigmar like this? Warhammer Fantasy is like this.
well,
Yeah, it's-
yes,
I think
but
I'm mostly interested in Rune Wars from a curiosity standpoint. I want to see what FFG is going to do with ground-based troop combat, the big block troops like Warhammer Fantasy used to be. So I'm very excited to try it out.
yeah, and they did. I haven't played Armada, but I played a lot of X-Wing a long time ago, and from everything I've heard, Armada might even be a better game. People that play it love it, and so I can't see how they would screw it up.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think it should be really good, but I do have to take issue because the Age of Sigmar community is very vibrant, enthusiastic, friendly. They love it. Do not go to a forum where 40K players and Age of Sigmar players argue because that gets dicey. But anyway, enough miniature stuff. I did want to pull up from the chat. So Chaz, Mercury Games, it sounds like, is publishing Container, according to random person in chat.
Thank you, random person.
Yeah, I have to scroll up. I meant to bring it up earlier, but I can't remember who said it. Oh, Icarus Must Burn said it. And there was one question, and we'll just kind of open it up here. We've been at this for an hour and 20 minutes, so we can go another like 10, 15 minutes, unless you guys have to go. One thing that was interesting, so we brought up the concept of Mars being like the theme of 2016 and 17. And some people were throwing out, what's the theme going to be for 2017 into 18 based on a movie or something that would pop culture that would drive it. And the two things I saw thrown out was Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell. So I don't know if I can't think of one that would drive it, but I thought Blade Runner might be a cool IP.
Cryptozoic will get it.
No.
Please no.
I was swearing that post-apocalyptic was going to go bananas after Mad Max, like the greatest Mad Max movie there has been. And I haven't seen as much of it, but I hope that's kind of just because they're in design, I was really hoping post-apocalyptic would be the big deal.
Yeah, like I suppose with the Wasteland Express, even this War of Mine is kind of
Can outlive
apocalyptic. Road Warrior games.
Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah.
Defenders of the Last Stand and the Express there, and there's a couple of them. What was there's a new one there. Oh, I wish I could remember it now.
So Nick Ignacy released 51st State right around the time that Mad Max. But you're right, there hasn't been like a real big breakout game that's kind of driven everyone to be talking about it. Maybe so.
Well, I did hear at BGG Gone last year, and I'm not supposed to say anything, but the person, it's not something that was confirmed, and it was from a publisher that wasn't publishing it, but they said they were certain somebody was going to be coming out with like a redo of Thunder Road, which is an old Mattel game or something.
If anybody would do it, it'd be Restoration Games.
Yeah, but it wasn't actually going to be Thunder Road. It was going to be a complete overhaul.
I just heard Avery, the big champion of Stephen Avery, the big champion of Thunder Road. He was on a podcast recently, and he was saying that it's been talked about. Like there's 3 or 4 publishers who've kind of circled it, and I think maybe one of the stumbling blocks has been like the rights are with Mattel or whoever, and so. Yeah, what you're saying might be the thing that happens is someone takes something just similar enough to it, something adjacent to it, and runs with that.
Go find a Straight Road on BGG. That's the one, designed by Haiku Gunther. Looks awesome. If they just produce that, done. It's the same concept.
It's called a Straight Road.
A Straight Road, yes.
Okay.
I'll have to look that up.
It's print and play only. That's the reason
I see.
No one knows anything about it.
Right.
Well, that Gangs of Cormog or something from Games Workshop,
Mhm.
looks like it has a Thunder Road type of vibe, except you're like these big speeder bikes in the sky in 40K.
Flying around the spires. Yeah, I kind of got an X-wing vibe off of that because it's
Yeah.
kind of like that flying around and dogfighting, but you're on like I don't know, you all look like a bunch of green goblins flying around on speeder
Right.
boards.
Right.
Joel, you might know this, or someone here might know this. Aren't the designers of Thunder Alley actually making some kind of combat-oriented
Oh,
version
yeah.
of their game?
That's right. I can't remember the name of it. I don't think it has an actual entry on BGG yet.
Right.
It's in the geek list that's in the description of this video. You got to go dig for it. But yeah, it's basically Thunder Alley, but Twisted Metal / Mad Max.
Yeah, I mean, and Thunder Alley's a cool game, so pairing that
Yeah.
with the combat and stuff would be great.
Yeah, definitely. So I've sort of blabbed my mouth about Gloomhaven on social media, and I've played it a couple of times, and it's awesome. And they want to know if any of you guys are also excited about Gloomhaven or not.
I think it looks amazing.
Yeah.
And fantastic. The mechanics look great. Everything looks great, but I can't say that I would be able to play it because of its campaign nature.
Right.
I just can't get my group into playing a campaign constantly. We'll play like 3 games and then want to try something new. That's my problem. So the answer is a very hesitant no.
But that's my issue with like who said Seventh Continent?
That was me. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking about all these campaign games coming out, and they all look awesome. And Jamie, I'm in the same boat as you. I'll get 2 or 3 in, and then it will stop, and I'll never get it back to the table. And it's like that's why I struggle with campaign games. That's why I like the idea of if there's a campaign game, there are these options of doing just one shots or little short things.
And I imagine with Gloomhaven, I think, is there the possibility, Joel, to do like one shots of that thing?
Yeah. You know, it's got a lot of tools in there. So you can play the campaign, and then you can go back if you want and replay a scenario. You're not going to progress the story, but you're going to be able to collect all the experience and gold and everything that you get. And all of this, every single scenario is based on the party level. So even if you go back to the first scenario, based on the level, you divide the levels of the characters and do all that. And so you've got that. So you can just go replay that even if you get stuck in the campaign. But there's also like a random scenario generator type of thing, which I've just glanced through it, but it generates the map and the treasure. And again, everything's based on the level of the character. So there's a lot to play through. And the interesting thing about it, I haven't really pushed and prodded to try to like sort of break this part of it, but you can play through like maybe with one group or even solo, and then spin up another group with some other players or play another scenario. But everything that's happened to the town and some of the different character classes will kind of unlock stuff permanently, so that when you come back to it, then it's a little bit different. So you pretty much want to play it through the campaign, but you don't have to do it as much. But I wouldn't say it's something like Doom or something. You can just take something and go. You could try
I just
that.
think I think the game just intimidates me. Like it's a
does.
box with so much stuff packed in it. Like it could knock out a small child, like that thing, right?
You could end a small child with it, yes.
and I mean, I'm not against complex games, but it's more like, okay, I'm gonna have to.
I was going to say, I'm not against knocking out a small child.
Wish someone had knocked you out. It's just I gotta unpack this giant box of stuff. Like how do you even start to play this game? How's the setup, Joel? Can you just
let me tell you. Okay, so the one thing that was frustrating at first was all of the standees for all of the monsters. There are so many of them. And like the first game we were playing, I'm like, I can't find the 5th bandit because I need another bandit here. And I'm like, I should have totally organized this better. So I spent like 45 minutes just organizing them. Like, I think these are all kind of in the same group because you don't know. Some of the monsters are like this big snake guy or something. You're like, when do I run into this? Is it in scenario 50 or what? So you kind of have to sort of just organize it in a way that makes sense to you, and then you'll be able to find them. Other than that, honestly, everything is packed very, very nicely. Everything comes in these boxes for the characters. So when you're done, you can put stuff back in the box. Although I think opening and closing those boxes a whole bunch will kind of destroy them. So, but it organizes it. And then the slots for all the cards and everything, that's really well organized. You can just pull stuff out, leave stuff at the back. But sorting the monsters is rough. But you can do, it's a one-time thing. And
sure, one-time thing. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think
I was kidding,
we're
Marty. I don't want anyone to hit you with Gloomhaven.
Right.
we are about at an hour and a half, which was my target, my personal target. So I think we're doing good. I didn't see any other questions in chat other than some other banter and stuff. And I just want to take a moment again to thank you guys for joining me. Last time I did this Patreon thing, we were just kind of randomly chatting. I was like, what are some cool ideas? What do you guys want to do? And they were like, well, have some important people on. It's just you. We want to get some people that actually.
Well, maybe next time, Joel, you can do that.
But so I said, yeah, that's a good idea. I could have guests on once in a while. So I asked you guys, and you all said yes. And so I was like, this is great. It's like what do you call that?
Mess?
Embarrassment of riches. Yeah.
Well said, Chaz.
Well,
Well, thanks to your
thankfully-
Patreons for supporting and
Yeah.
creating this opportunity for us to do this. That's awesome for them to support the show, and it's a great YouTube channel, and those are smart people.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there is a question. The guys have asked here a couple times about the Dunwich Legacy. I don't know what that is. Is that an Arkham thing?
Yeah. Arkham Horror LCG.
Oh,
Yeah,
is
I'm
it
buying
an
up all
expansion?
Yeah, it just came out last week.
At this point,
Okay.
every single Fantasy Flight, Arkham Horror LCG, and Mansions of Madness expansion, I will have every single one of it, because those two games, I think Fantasy Flight outdid themselves with that stuff. I can't. That's one thing. If there was a campaign to Mansions of Madness, I could have played it by now. I just keep playing those missions consistently over and over with the same people too, because we love it so much.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and Eldritch Horror still, that's old news, but they're still dumping out stuff for that. And that's still really fun too.
Yeah.
I'll stay silent on that one because I don't like that one.
Oh, that's right.
Even
Did you like
Elder Sign, they
Arkham
just
Horror?
announced another one.
I didn't like Arkham Horror either. Eldritch Horror
Okay.
and Arkham Horror, but I would play A Touch of Evil 1,000 times before either of those two.
Sadness.
All right. Well, let's do a little. We'll run down the line there, and you can tell everybody where to find you and stuff in case they've been living under a rock. So we'll start with Jamie, and just anything new you got coming up or whatever you want to talk about.
I host with a bunch of my buddies the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast. You can find us at thesecretcabal.com, or you can search iTunes and find us there. We just do a podcast about board games and card games and miniature games, role-playing games, all sorts of stuff. And thank you very much, Joel, for having me. We will do this anytime. I know I can speak for the rest of these guys that we'll do this anytime you want us to, because we love to talk.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Next is Luke. Oh, excuse me, Rodney.
Yes, Luke is the real star of the show, no question. I have a YouTube channel called Watch It Played, where publishers will hire us to teach you how to play the game fully, and then we'll oftentimes do full playthroughs as well, which we'll do with the audience and kind of like end an episode and turn it over to the audience and say, hey, what do you want us to do next? And we'll come back and sort of pick up from there. All right. Idea, hopefully, is that you can watch and kind of get a sense of whether or not the game would be a good fit for you and your family, your gaming group. So I host it with my son Luke, as Joel referenced, and also my new co-host Pat McDonald, whose apartment I'm in right now, because he has decent fiber up, and that's why you can see me kind of crystal clear. If I was from home, it would be like a pixel. A pixel. And yes, Joel, what's that, Jamie?
Is Pep just kind of sitting off camera reading a book or
Yeah,
something?
he's quietly locked himself in his bedroom, very kindly. Joel, as I'm sure all of us will say, yes, thank you for inviting us to be on here, and thanks for flying the friendly skies out.
Next is Tony McCree.
Okay, so I'm Marty, who I'm a co-host with another guy named Tony. We have a podcast called Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and Tony and I get on and we banter, we review games, we talk about a bunch of different topics. So we bike weekly. If you want to, you can find us at rolldicetakenames.com. You can find us at iTunes, or come talk to us on Twitter at Dice and Names. And Joel, thank you so much for having us on, and this will probably be my last time I get to come on, and it was fun.
Oh, it's good knowing you. I appreciate your time. Next is Matt Evans, otherwise known as Reaper on Overwatch.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Our Overwatch crew we got together here as well. Jeez.
That's exactly right.
Well, except for Chaz. Chaz doesn't like
You in there,
anything.
Chaz.
Poor Chaz.
You haven't fallen into
Yeah,
that
I
trap.
run a. Sorry, was that Jamie?
Oh, he hasn't fallen into that trap yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
That's a
smart.
one-time
One listen
payment.
by. Yeah, I have a YouTube series called Board Game Replay. It's where I kind of a show with my buddies where we give an overview of a game and then kind of highlight some of the fun moments from it, like the exciting moments, like everybody kind of shouting and yelling and stuff. Sort of like a group review of a game. We do that on YouTube, so you can go youtube.com/boardgamereplay. And yeah, Joel, thank you for having me as well. It was fun to be here and kind of hearing what you guys have. You guys have all kind of got me excited about a bunch of new games now. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, my list has grown, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
And now we have Chaz Marler, Tom Vassel's personal assistant.
If you want to get a hold of me, you can catch me getting Tom coffee any day of the week. So I have my own YouTube channel, which is Pair of Dice Paradise, and do board game news, reviews, commentary. Try to do stuff that's a little bit different. Over the past
Oh, it's
year,
different.
Pardon?
It's different.
Oh yeah, thank you. Over the past year, I've also been producing videos on the Dice Towers YouTube channel, and just over this past weekend, the Dice Towers fundraiser hit their stretch goal, where I'm going to continue to be producing some videos for their channel throughout this year as well. So,
Yay.
yeah. So,
Awesome.
but I will also be returning, hopefully, to doing more content on my own channel as well. So both the Dice Tower and the Pair of Dice Paradise YouTube channel and Dice Paradise on Twitter. And
Alrighty.
as with everyone else, thank you for including me in this, Joel. It's been great just hang out with you guys.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys all, and I certainly appreciate you joining me and hanging out with some of my Patreons and stuff. It's a lot of fun, and I can certainly vouch for all you guys. So if any of you guys watching here run into them at a convention or something, definitely say hi. And they're all great folks. And my Patreons are great folks too. So thank you again for supporting me and watching. And those of you that were able to join us live, that's awesome, and provide questions and everything. So I'm gonna say goodbye and thank you again. And as for the Patreon folks, we'll be doing this again in 2 months. So we'll be doing it in March. And I'll try to figure out a topic. If you get a idea for a topic or something to cover or some way to do it, let me know, and then we'll try it. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.